already said we will occupy the Gaza Strip and we will control it. But in another hand, there is a possibility that we are not doing this occupation, but we're controlling the security. If there will be any force inside, if there will be any international force inside to control everything, we will be able to control security, what's happening there without any taking care of a lot of troops inside Gaza. And so it's difficult to say how it will be, but Benjamin Netanyahu is saying very clearly what is going on today is safe and secure. Gaza Strip, there's no ability to anybody to shoot anything out of Gaza.
Are you expecting something similar to what we see in the West Bank, like Area B, where the IDF has no regular control, but is able to go in whenever
some kind of combination like that, A, B, C, or but I think that it will not be in control of the Palestinian hands. It's not like in Area A in the West Bank, who's the leaders there, or was controlling there is the Palestinian. We will not be able to give them the opportunity to hold this city in Gaza. So it will be somebody else, but it will be some combination. I think very creative combination to do.
We're hearing a lot about the status of the civilians in Gaza, and we're hearing this evening from officials in Washington, like Secretary Blinken, his concerns about what Israel is doing to protect those civilians. Maybe let's take a listen first.
I think
let's take a listen, and let's take a listen to Blinken, and then we can hear more. Okay, we do not have Blinken. Your response to this?
We can be concerned about it, but as we know that the Israeli IDF is working the most humanitarian way that anybody or any army in the world can act. First, we are giving all the civilians the opportunity to get out from war zone. And we see the Hamas is shooting them not to go out from the war zone. This is what we see. It's not that we don't want, but we are giving them the opportunity to go back. For numbers and numbers of people are going from the north to the south, and we see the corridor is open, and this is one hand. In one hand, another hand is humanitarian aid that comes from all over the world, as medicine, as water, to who is in the south side of Gaza. So we are doing the best as we can to,
and we're seeing that estimates are that 50,000 Gazan residents have moved south today, following these Israeli calls for them to move to the safe zone. Let's take a listen to Blinken right now.
This marks the last day of what's now been a 9-day trip of intensive diplomacy throughout the Middle East and now here in the Indo-Pacific. And along the way and at each stop, in different ways, we sought to advance a number of critical objectives, minimizing harm to Palestinian civilians and maximizing the humanitarian assistance that reaches them, working to prevent the spread of the conflict, focusing on getting hostages home, as well as getting American citizens and other foreign nationals out of Gaza, and working to set sustainable, durable conditions for genuinely lasting peace and security for Israelis and Palestinians alike. At the same time, much more needs to be done to protect civilians and to make sure that humanitarian assistance reaches them. Far too many Palestinians have been killed. Far too many have suffered these past weeks. And we want to do everything possible to prevent harm to them and to maximize the assistance that gets to them.
Yeah, so Blinken says far too many Palestinians have been killed. And as we're speaking, the IDF is surrounding one of the hospitals in the Gaza Strip with tanks. But that is no regular hospital. There are no such regular hospitals in Gaza.
Yes, and as we see, it's very interesting because something happened about the hospitals. IDF is talking to people inside inside hospitals, the management of the hospital, and they are telling them, go out. And they succeeded. Two hospitals are getting out of the hospital, all the people from there, all the innocent people that is in the hospital. And as we can see, it's success. It's success for the IDF to get out everybody from this hospital, because we know that under this hospital there's tunnels and bunkers and the command and control of the Hamas. So we can succeed in it. We can avoid the casualties from the innocent people.
Let's take a broader picture now and speak about the popularity of Hamas, both in Gaza and in the West Bank. When Hamas initiated this attack, it knew very well that it is bringing a death wish to itself and to the people of Gaza. Perhaps didn't expect the IDF to do so well in entering Gaza. Maybe they had misconceptions about the Israeli response. And nonetheless, the overwhelming support on the streets in Gaza and also in the West Bank is still to the movement of Hamas, with all that Hamas has done for its civilians. Let's explain this for
this is something that we don't understand in the West, and we don't understand in our culture. Because if something is very clear when you're getting deep into the ideology of Hamas, is that ideology is the important thing. Okay? It's not the wealth, it's not the convenience that will be to the civilians or to the society. It's the ideology, the Islamic radical ideology, that your life is belong to Allah, and you will give your life back to Allah, because He's just borrowed your soul. So nothing will be good for them, and we can give them wealth, we can give them money, we can give them everything. At the end, they will come back to the ideology of Hamas. And this is a problem, because if the ideology of the Hamas is that legitimate of Israel here in the region, there's nothing we can do until they will change this view.
Thank you, Nathan. We'll go back to you very soon. Now, since the start of the Hamas onslaught on October 7th, over 1,400 Israelis were murdered. Many of them abused, tortured, amputated, beheaded, or burned alive. No less than 7,000 others were wounded in the hands of those Hamas terrorists, but also at the hands of terrorists of other Palestinian factions, and even just regular Gaza civilians who happen to join the bloodbath of Israeli civilians. Israeli paramedics, doctors, and nurses have been working tirelessly since the attack to care for the wounded. I want to welcome Dr. Ori Galante, the Director of ECMO for Respiratory Failure Services at the Soroka University Medical Center, also the head of the Resuscitation Committee at the Medical Intensive Care Unit. He's joining us from Ishmael Haneged in southern Israel. Dr. Galante, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. Good evening.
So, Doctor, you have not only been treating patients at the hospital, but also felt the attack very close to your home and to your family. Take us back to that Saturday morning of October 7th.
I woke up at 6 a.m. planning to take my horse and go for a ride in the beautiful fields of the western Negev. On 6:30, I started hearing the missile attack, the bombing. So this is something that we are pretty used to, but it was something unusual, the amount. So I opened the TV, and there was the first reports of terrorist invasions to kibbutzes near the Gaza Strip. I immediately called my friend with security in charge in my kibbutz. I live in Ishmael Haneged, as you said, which is located 25 kilometers from Gaza. And we didn't know what was happening, and we didn't have any long weapons in our kibbutz. So we decided that
drive to the armor, which is located approximately 15-minute drive, and I'm gonna go take my personal weapon and with another friend go to the fence of our kibbutz to protect our family and kibbutz. Rockets were falling. The Iron Dome was firing on the Hamas missile, but there were falls all over, very much closer than we used to. So the earth was shaking, and I located myself near the stable. This is what was my post, and started to write to my uncle who lives in a kibbutz near, closer to Gaza. His name was Said Moshe. He lived in kibbutz near Oz, and he told me that there are terrorists all over. They are shooting at homes. That he and my aunt Adina are in the safe room of their house, a shelter. And his son, my cousin, Amos, with his 5 children and his wife, are at their home, also in the hall, also in the safe room. So the next hour and a half was looked like me in my post, writing to Said, and at the same time I got a call from Shiran. Shiran is a nurse in my ICU. She lives in a village called Yachini, and she told me that her nephew, 18-year-old boy called Jonathan Hashmi, is shot in the chest while visiting his grandmother. I tried to guide him how to treat him, knowing that without proper medical equipment, the chances are very, very low. So I hanged up and tried to arrange for a medical evacuation for him under fire. I called the EMS, I called the police, I called the army, whoever I can, but I didn't succeed for arranging this evacuation. I called them back and we did a video chat, and I saw the situation is deteriorating. He asked for ice. He told his family that he's going to die. So, knowing, I know from treating patients that when a patient says he's going to die, he probably knows what he's talking about. I told him that everything would be okay, knowing that he probably not. At one time, I tried to ask them if maybe they can take him into their car and just drive under fire and evacuate him. Immediately, I regretted asking that because I knew that maybe I'm sending them to their death. So you can imagine me at the fence, and missiles falling all over, and trying to text my uncle, which stopped replying at 9:45. And Jonathan's situation is getting worse and worse. He lost conscience. I started guiding them how to do CPR, knowing that it won't help. And after approximately 2 hours, he died in his grandmother's home with his family. Then the security team in my kibbutz was already arranged, so I said goodbye to my family, knowing that I'm leaving them alone, and knowing that in the next city, which is 5 minutes away from my kibbutz, Ofakim, there are terrorists doing horrifying things. And I left for the hospital. I entered the trauma room with my jeans, my pistol still on me, because you can never know what's going to happen now and where. And what I saw was apocalyptic view. The first day in Soroka Medical Center, we got approximately 800
family at these moments? Because so much is going on, and you haven't heard from your uncle since.
Yeah, I didn't have heard from him. We lost contact. Approximately at 2 p.m., I got a message from another family member that there is a clip showing my aunt Adina as a hostage in Gaza on a motorcycle with two armed terrorists and celebrating mob around there. Uh, you know,
Unfortunately, we didn't on the screen right now.
yeah, right. For future analysts all over, they're taking pictures of this situation. Just later in the evening, when the world was freed from terrorists, Amos, my cousin, went to his parents' home, finding my uncle, my beloved uncle, Said, dead, shot 12 times in the safe room after they bombed the window, and it was found still holding the door handle, the door which was never opened, in a heroic attempt to save his beloved wife, which was, as I said before, she was kidnapped. I turned back to treat the patients. What could I do? I knew that Amos and his 5 little children is safe now. I knew that my uncle is dead. And I knew that my aunt is somewhere in Gaza. So, this was my night.
How do you manage to cope? How do you manage to concentrate on saving lives when your own family has just experienced such a tragedy, coping with unimaginable tragedies like losing your uncle, your aunt being kidnapped, seeing a young boy die in front of your eyes?
What choice did I have? There were many other kids. They were all kids coming into the trauma room, all soldiers, young people from the party in the rain, celebrating life and peace. So what choice do I have? Just continue working. Don't let the emotions put them aside and just keep on working to try and save who we can.
It has been over a month now since this terrible tragedy, since losing your uncle, and since your aunt was kidnapped. Do you have any information about her? What is your family doing? What do they know about what is she experiencing now in Gaza? What are you hearing from the Israeli government, from other foreign entities? What do you know?
We don't know nothing. We know that she is there. We know from the clip that she got alive, but nothing else. We're working. Her children is working with the hostage committee. I'm doing what I can from the hospital, combining the work of still treating the patients and trying to do whatever we can, speak to whoever we can. But we don't really have any new information. We know that there were 2 elderly ladies that were released from Hamas. Both of them were from New York, the same kibbutz, but nothing else.
And Doctor, working at the Soroka Medical Center, you have clearly treated also many patients from Gaza. Over the years, you saved so many lives of patients that came from Gaza. How do you see your work doing that with everything that has happened?
It's not only that, the New Old community was a very special community. They were all farmers, people of the land, myself, I treated over the years, I think I treated dozens of patients from Gaza. I fought for their lives. I saved their lives, lived their lives. I talked to their families and I sent them back home. And, you know, as a matter of fact, the week before the October 7th, there were approximately 60 families from Gaza in Israeli hospitals getting treatment for diseases they can't treat in Gaza. And now, you know, you can't help yourself from asking and wondering whether those patients of mine, their families, their friends, were part of this murdering mob that slaughtered, murdered, raped, burned, kidnapped my family and friends. Did they hold their parents, proudly showing their bloody hands with Jewish blood to get a blessing for their parents as we heard those talks? You know, I work in a hospital in Soroka Medical Center, which is filled with wonderful people. The people that give their lives to treat others. On October 7th, we worked side by side, shoulder by shoulder, medical teams with Muslims, Christians, Jewish, and we treated the wounded together. The wounded were also Jewish, Muslim, Christian, all over. They killed everybody. And 30 kilometers from where I'm sitting now, just now, there's a building, and the sign over the building says hospital, Shifa Hospital. In this place harbors the monster murderers of my family and friends. They are hiding over there. Probably my aunt, Adina, with the other 240 kidnappees, among them 40 children and babies. She's probably over there also, underneath this hospital, so-called hospital, in the tunnels of Hamas.
Unbelievable and unimaginable situation. We have 1 minute to go. Do you have a final message to the world, to the people who are watching us, trying to understand the situation?
Yeah. I call all the people from in all the countries that are watching, everybody that are watching, you should do whatever you can. Press your leaders to get those 240 civilians, children, babies, elderly men and women back home. As captive, as in, we don't know in what condition. Nobody had connection with them. The Red Cross is not allowed to see them. So we should do whatever we can to free them. Whatever we can.
Dr. Ari Galante, we thank you so much for sharing this devastating story with us. We certainly hope that message did get through to the world to understand what you've been going through, what so many people in Israel have gone through, what the state of Israel is going through right now. Thank you for your time and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.
We have to wrap up this bulletin of the I-24 News Desk. More updates are coming up at the top of the hour. Israel continues its ground operations in day 35th of Israel's war against Hamas.
Since the world as we knew it ceased to exist, the most difficult question here in Israel is, how are you? The answer we usually get, like everyone, yes, like everyone, with this thick dock of sorrow in our throats, in our hearts, and yet, together, in grief, in pain, in hope, and strength, together. We have lost so many, we have lost so much, and so a month on, for all of us who died and survived and born anew on October 7th, It became clearer than ever before. This is no social contract that keeps us together, that binds us, but a shared destiny, a covenant, and it is up to us to make it not just a covenant of the past, but one of the future, for the sake of all those who are no longer here, but forever will be with us. The question is not what will be, but who we will be, because we have rediscovered, if you will, our true secret weapon, our resilience. And the Israeli light amidst all this darkness is and will continue to be shining oh so bright. And yet, what do you say when there are no words? How do you bid farewell to someone you never even knew? So many lives ended on October 7th, every person, a full world of course. There were so many of them, so many funerals and so many eulogies to be written, and yet so little people left to actually write them. So writers all over the country volunteered to use their own weapon and honor them with awards to accompany all of them in their final journeys. And we're now joined here in studio by screenwriter Tal Miller. Gili Dolev also here with us, and we'll be speaking to you shortly, Gili. And by Zoom, we're also joined by Nili Balsinai, who lost her husband, Yoram, in the heroic battles of Kibbutz Be'eri. Thank you, all of you, for joining us on this broadcast. And first, before, and after all else, Nili, we are so sorry for your loss. Irony has no mercy, and you were actually writing an obituary to a friend when you got the message on your beloved husband.
Yes, because I was in the kibbutz. We write eulogies, but in a different way. We don't talk about the death, but about the living, and who was the person, how he lived, and what he did with his life. So I was interviewing one of the families, and I was using my phone at the time because I knew I was expecting the call to hear what happened to him. And when we were talking about the family's loss, so I got the phone and I went to hear that my husband was dead too. But then somebody of the group of the writers volunteered to do the inquiries and write the eulogy.
So so one of them is Tal Miller, who is here with us in studio. Neely, Tal, it's Neely knows firsthand, but it's so hard to recap the life of a person you know, not to speak about someone you didn't. So where do you start? How do you write an obituary for a stranger?
That's a very good question. I have to say it's weird to say I was privileged, but I feel privileged taking part of this amazing and very painful project. I used to be a speechwriter before I worked as a screenwriter. I never felt it was so emotional like it is now. I feel like I fell in love with people who I never met throughout their beloved ones and the stories they told about them. It's like building a puzzle of someone's life. You get like 40 different questions you need to ask the closest people to the deceased, and then you try to build this story. You ask yourself how this person wish to be remembered, and what are the things that you would be most proud of, and you try to build together with his beloved ones, and it's a very challenging mission.
I'm not sure I'm using the right term here, but both of you, to an extent, professional obituary writers at this point. What would you say is the driving force when trying to write an obituary? Is it the sorrow? Is it the attempt to comfort those who are present at the funeral? Is it the pursuit of creating meaning to the life that we're now gone?
Well, it's a very good question, but I agree that the most important thing is talking about life, not only about death. We always say that each individual is a universe, and there were so many universes that we lost in this terrible tragedy. We try to look at their life as like they wish write about anyone else. So that's the challenge.
And really, so many members of the kibbutz, and we keep on trying to explain to our foreign audiences what a kibbutz means, such a powerful, strong community, and all of a sudden you had to bid farewell to dozens. Overwhelming, can't even describe that.
There were days with 17 funerals. Some of them are parents and two kids. And some one day was a grandmother and their son and a granddaughter. So this is overwhelming. And there were, because we can't bury the people in our place, because we are all refugees by now. So we have to put them in temporary places. And you know, in succession, and 1 hour after another. And this was incredibly difficult for everyone because it was so intense, and families and friends and all over the country, and it cannot be described in words, I think, because also in some of the scenes there were still using bombs around and the noises all around.
Yeah, you had to bury your friends while the war is still going.
Yeah, that's not easy.
Tell me.
And
Yes, and please, Nelly, keep on going.
I don't know. You can't describe this, I think, in words. It's only if you take pictures of that or videotape, then you can see the amount of flowers and the amount of people crying there. And also there are styles in that, you know, it's not all the families take it in the same way. So although it's in succession, but each funeral is different.
So to that point, exactly, and to that point, you were forced to find words, and I know it's a tough one, and I think that what I would like to ask you the most is what makes a person who is, what makes his life his own, and what makes his death his.
It's a very challenging question, especially when you're referring that tragedy, so many people die on the same day. Can tell you that I asked myself what would be meaningful for the same individual, for each individual that we are writing about. For example, one of the person I wrote about was religious as a child, and the last thing he did before he died was putting a Torah book on his pillow just before he died. And that was something that I felt was meaningful because it related to his own history and biography. Try to look at specific issues that makes this person unique. For example, someone else was colorblind, and that really shaped his entire personality. He could combine different shades that no one would think they're matched, and that was a huge part of his the way he looked at himself in the world, and that was a part of the eulogy. So we try to go for the specific issues and anecdote that tells someone managed to portray his life story and his character.
And you mentioned the word history, and this was.
I don't think it's for us. It's not for us to attach meaning to other people's lives. It's for us to describe them and to show who they were. And the story is enough, I think. It doesn't have to be something, you know, a lesson for the future generations. It's just one person like that. There are no heroes and no ordinary people like that. Ordinary people. So I think it's enough that we take a picture of who they were and respect that.
Longer than that way. And before we thank you both, we cannot ignore the historical gravitas, I would say, of this moment. And these obituaries will be remembered for eternity, not just as personal stories, but as stories of this nation. To what extent did you feel like a historian, Tal?
Well, I really agree. I don't look at myself as a historian. I look at myself as a storyteller, and I try to tell the story in the way I examine it, and the way the beloved ones of each individual I think I really agree with the tragedy here. There are so many different stories, and our goal is to portray it, to tell it as accurate as we can, and hopefully we did the best in order to.
You did very well. You did very well, I can tell you that. Because I know the people and I know you did very well.
Thank you so much, and really, I can't, it's really the least we can do as writers, as people in this country right now, to help in this terrible tragedy. It's really still impossible to describe it.
And yet, you were hesitant using this word to describe how you feel at the beginning of the conversation, and yet a privilege to be part of the final phase of their journey. Really, before we thank you, would you like perhaps to share a month on what keeps you going?
I'm not sure I know, but I think it's being a part of a community that's very strong and very empowering, and this is where I belong, and I take part in whatever is necessary now.
Yes.
So this is what I do.
Sticking together. This is what keeps all of us going. Nelibas and I were sending a big hug from here. Thank you so very much for speaking to us. We appreciate it. Tamila, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and we will take a deep breath now. Because next video you're about to see will probably continue to resonate for a while, if not forever. But beforehand, Mother, is it okay now to cry? Yes, girl, yes. Thin hands. Yes, now it is time to cry. Yes, an angel of horse flashes in the hair. Yes, now it is already allowed. Already allowed. You were obedient and wise. In the dark, you did not cry, and even so, no ear would hear. You grew your teeth in silence. And the stars above will testify how we tore the sea again apart. Look at how in a tiny vibration the first gleam sparkles in your eye. This is a part of a poem written by arguably the greatest Israeli poet, Natan Alterman, after World War II, based on one of so many such stories of a little girl who was hiding with her mother. For so many years, Jewish children were not allowed to cry. This country was founded so they can be children. On October 7th, once again, Jewish children were not allowed to cry.
On a peaceful Saturday morning, with their humming the sound, Mama and Papa Bear watched the little baby bear nest. A howl sounded outside.
I'll go check.
Baby bear perked his ears. Good morning, baby cub. Mama bear is here. What's that noise? The cub looked for advice. Don't worry, Mama bear said. He covered his eyes. Wolves! The baby yelled in fear. Don't worry, little one. Mama bear is here. They're getting near. I'm coming to find out. Mama bear is here.
We're joined now here in studio by Gili Golev, creator and co-director of the Mama Bear movie. We've just watched. Gili, thank you so very much for coming. It's not the first time I'm watching it, and yet every time it hits again. I think that many of us felt like Roberto Benigni in Life is Beautiful, trying to mask the horror with some childish tenderness, and here it's the exact opposite. It's this pure moment of a mother touching her baby in bed. How does it all come to be?
So, I think first of all, just talking, just hearing the previous two guests talking is just like so powerful. And I think there's a glimmer of hope in all this, is like how people come together and the great sense of community. And this all, none of that happened because of a lot of great people, great artists, like TV execs, felt the need to do something and to give voice to those who don't have a voice at the moment, and especially the kids held in Gaza and the rest of the hostages. A good friend and a colleague of mine, Ila actor, who was still is accompanying one of the families who have kids held in Gaza. She felt with a very sort of strong instinct that our nation will be able to deliver a message in a way that will be different and in a way that will be heard maybe above the general noise. And so she mentioned the idea to me, and I think we brainstormed it for 15 minutes, which is shorter than anything I think I've ever done before. And then we involved Sheila Ryan, who's a senior TV exec in this business, and we thought about it a little bit more. And then I just pretty much approached a lot of my friends who are also artists and animators who usually work on, preschool shows. My background is directing and creating preschool shows. I've recently directed Cocomelon. This could not be more different to something like that. And Pure Animation, which is a great Israeli studio of Sharon Sharon, as he came on board, and contributed all the time and efforts and people who work in the studio, along with animators from all over the world.
Yeah, all recruited. We've seen this across the board in all sectors of Israeli society, from all all fields and all endeavors. Gili, why bears and not humans?
That's a really it's a great question. We started off when I first thought about it. I thought about a mother and her son with wolves coming into the house.
Yeah.
This whole idea of a fairy tale gone very wrong, like the Green Brothers and with the wolves and then when I was talking to Lior, who's a storyboard artist, about the idea, he said maybe they should all be animals, and I thought that was a great idea, and I felt like bears and the idea of a mama bear protecting her cub resonates in a way that we all understand.
So to an extent, to make the story even more human, you had to make it non-human.
You phrased it in a much better way than I've ever sort of articulated it. It's exactly that. I think when something, animation as a medium is great for, doing something with a little disguise that you don't expect, and then kind of going, for the soft spot. And I think it catches you off guard, and I think that's what happens. You don't expect it. It starts with Shira Haas's sort of very gentle voice, and you think you are kind of in for this kind of fairy tale, and very quickly it goes
the visual language here is like a classic children book, and then it hits.
So, and that was exactly the purpose. And Asher Simonhoyes, who's the art director and the designer who designed this, we talked very early on about the idea of creating a picture book. And because those picture book visuals that, every parent kind of reads to their kids before they go to bed. And now those kids are in Gaza, they don't have that. And it's something that just again, we all understand, and it resonates, and it's cross-cultural as well. So people in Israel, people abroad, they should all understand it on a basic human level.
Yeah, so we do want to take a quick look into your next project, Taken. was shocking?
So, the idea here is trying to give a very specific voice to the hostages in Gaza by taking their individual videos and from, again, everyday sort of activity. Those are real home videos of the hostages and having a moment where they're literally gone. So and the aim is to create one for every hostage held in Gaza, and we're working with Nietzsche Vygotsky, and who's helping make contact with all the families because we get the consent of everyone, and Shirley Aran, Avi Balid is doing the music, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is already on board to help distribute it.
We do hope that they will use it in all their platforms. Of course, what feedbacks are you getting so far?
So on Mama, it certainly hit a nerve. I think it touched a lot of people in Israel, and more importantly, in a way, because it's important to touch people here, but we're all in the same camp. I think there's such a wave of anti-Semitism at the moment around the world that all we can do is try to get people to understand the scale of the horrors that happened here. Yeah. And we're dealing with people exactly like them. It could be the brother, the child, the sister, mother, father, grandparents. Exactly. So that's the only thing we can do. We just hope that their voice is heard. And that are brought back home as soon as possible.
I do hope that very soon you will go back to your ordinary job of making kids happy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming here. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Brothers in Arms is not just a term, not mere lip service. If this month taught us anything, is that the Israeli people are a force of nature. Our correspondent Zoe Shapira joined this civil organization that became the de facto government of the people, for the people, by the people.
Here in this picturesque kibbutz, not far from the Gaza border, masses of volunteers have gathered to assist the hard-hit people of the south.
On Sunday morning, we created this control unit. We didn't know exactly what to do. We decided to set up this headquarters here, a place close to the Gaza border.
This headquarters, which was established right after the brutal Hamas assault on October 7, doesn't only help with supplies and food, but also with evacuation missions. I-24 News joined a team of elderly people who came to support the people of the south.
We have 3 missions today. The first one is to bring people from Netivot. The second one is to bring a package to Be'eri, and the third is to evacuate a woman and bring her to Jerusalem. Each unit here has 4 people and 2 cars. In each car, we have someone with a weapon and a driver.
Our first stop was at Netivot, about 10 kilometers from the Gaza Strip, which has been bombarded by rockets. The next destination is Kibbutz Be'eri. This was one of the main targets of the Hamas slaughter. The team is asked to deliver a package to one of the residents here. The road is closed by the IDF, and the team brings the package to one of the soldiers. One of the volunteers here is Shauli Levy, whose granddaughter was kidnapped and taken to Gaza. He decided to take action and join the civil effort.
My heart hurts now, but as you can see, the activity here is distracting, and that's the most important thing for me right now.
Ever since the war erupted, we are seeing more and more initiatives like this, where residents are taking action. It's just one more example of the uniqueness and strength of the Israeli society.
We are taking a short break now, but when we get back, we continue this special edition, a month since October 7th, since everything changed from devastation to resurrection. A few minutes and we'll be back. Stay with us.
and more than 3,000 injured, and the war with Hamas continues. We bring you first-hand testimonies from the front lines, from those who survived, and all the records of the atrocities by Hamas. Follow us as Israel fights terror from the south and north. Get the inside scoop on what's going on. Only on I-24 News.
Hello and thank you for joining us here on the rolling coverage of day 35 of Israel's war with Hamas. The Israeli Defense Forces confirming a short while ago that 3 aircrafts have infiltrated into Israeli territory out of Lebanon. One of them was intercepted by Israel's aerial defense systems and 2 others fell in open areas. 3 IDF soldiers wounded. On Thursday, a UAV that penetrated Israel out of Syria has hit a school in the southern city of Eilat, with the IDF attacking targets in Syria belonging to the group behind the attack in retaliation. Earlier this afternoon, a barrage of rockets was fired out of Gaza into central Israel, sending millions of Israelis to shelter. 2 women were wounded from shrapnel. Not quiet on the southern front as well, with multiple rocket launches towards southern border communities near the Gaza border in recent hours. Meanwhile, the IDF continues its ground operation in Gaza. Israeli tanks are reportedly surrounding a hospital where Hamas terrorists are barricaded. What you just saw are shots believed to be fired by Hamas terrorists at civilians who attempted to flee the area of the hospital. Also this evening, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with heads of municipalities of the southern border, those most affected by the Hamas massacre. Netanyahu vowing the IDF will remain in control of the Gaza Strip after the war to ensure there is no longer a threat from Gaza to Israeli citizens.
We are now finishing a meeting with the heads of the communities of the Gaza envelope. These people, along with the residents in the Gaza envelope, show tremendous resilience. Civilians fought alongside soldiers, shoulder to shoulder. There is a great determination among them and in the government to restore it to even better than before. To restore, to build, to grow. First of all, to restore security. To make sure that there is no Hamas and that Hamas does not return. But also to make sure that there will be strong life after. I'm impressed by these people. I'm impressed by the work of Moshe Edrei, Yossi Shelley, the Minister of Tourism, and the Home Front Command. They work together. We have a big mission, and we will succeed in it. Yossi Shelley.
Now for more, joining me in studio now is Professor Uzi Rabi, the director of the Moshe Dayan Center for Middle East Studies at Tel Aviv University and a senior researcher at the Center for Iranian Studies. Professor, thank you for coming on the show. Let's speak about Netanyahu's statement there. saying Israel will remain in control militarily of the Gaza Strip, and with Israel's goal of eliminating Hamas's military capabilities and also its governance over the Gaza Strip. How is this all possible when Hamas is still so popular on the streets of Gaza?
Well, I mean, all these programs are going to be implemented if and when Hamas is being uprooted, both politically and military, from the landscape of Gaza or the Middle East or any other Palestinian spot. That for one. That will take time, but there is one thing actually that Netanyahu said, and I 100% actually agree to that. This is actually that Israel cannot withdraw from Gaza. Ultimately, after that, what Israel has to secure is the security of its citizens, and it goes without beyond any doubt that if Israel would like actually to let this southerners, so to speak, prosper and actually revive their life there, there must be sort of a perimeter or sort of a security belt. It would be 2 to 3 kilometers square, but this is one. The second thing is that Israel must actually keep the ability to go in and out whenever there is kind of a hint or kind of a possibility of creating a pseudo-Hamas or another organizations like Hamas in Gaza. So basically, Israel has to prevent and nip in the bud any build-up or possible build-up of something like Hamas in Gaza from now on.
And as we speak about Gaza, there are more developments in the north. Let's take you live now to Israel's northern border. Correspondent Zach Anders is standing by for us. Zach, 3 drones launched out of Lebanon into Israel this evening, and we're hearing from the IDF.
Guy, we're also hearing that there were injuries. There were IDF injuries on the Israeli side. 3 were wounded. The IDF says severely wounded and transported to a nearby hospital. This is in relation to earlier anti-tank guided missile fire, ATG fire, earlier in the afternoon, and that an additional soldier was injured, severely injured in the drone strike. Another soldier was moderately injured in that same drone strike as well. So 5 Israeli soldiers have been wounded today on the border with Lebanon, and it continued exchanges happening here.
And Zach, as we mentioned just now, overnight Israel targeting also in Syria the group behind that drone that hit a school in the city of Eilat.
That's right. This entire northern front, including Syria, has seen quite a large number of drones in the last 72 hours. And those drones are a big element here because those are Iranian-supplied equipment that's provided to Hezbollah and other Iranian factions in the region. Obviously, their hand is, they're a very major player in all of this, including in Syria.
Zach Anders, stay safe there in the northern border. More updates from Zach coming in throughout this evening. Professor, your take on these recent developments? Certainly quite worrying. Both the anti-tank missiles, but also the drones, the use of attack drones in Israel. This is something new.
Yeah, and I think that Israel should be keenly aware of that. I'm pretty sure that what Israel is coming up with, as we saw, the retaliation, so to speak, in Syria, and what we got in Lebanon until now, says that Israel actually is going on with the tit for tat when it comes to Iranian proxies. Basically, what Iran is coming up with is kind of a theater by which to show everybody what its capabilities are, and basically this is something that I would say doesn't go beyond kind of a red line, but it is definitely something that has to be taken into the account. And I dare say that even now, what Hezbollah has managed to do in the Galilee is just to inflict a blow to Israel when it comes to tens of thousands of citizens actually moving to the center of Israel. This is a blow to the Zionist ethos. This is something that Nasrallah would actually take pride of, I'm pretty sure, in his speech tomorrow. But one way or the other, this is kind of a reminder what Iran actually is up to. And since we know the map of its proxies, I think the result should be thrilled of the US presence here, because this is exactly something that the United States would like to prevent, kind of a regional war. And I don't rule out the possibility that the slippery slope is there, but the United States is going actually to, I guess, one way or the other, actually get into action. Let me just remind you that Iranian militias in Iraq are doing, actually, there are a lot of skirmishes with, I would say, American forces there in the east of Syria. So this is definitely something that could be taken out of control. Iran would like actually to preserve it, but you know, we are in the land of war. This is kind of an arena of miscalculation, and we have to take note that things can be deteriorated in no time.
And to that point exactly, since
Lebanon and northern Israel. That's one front that is simmering with artillery duels across the border. The West Bank is in a state of ferment. 150 Palestinians around that have been killed in the last 3 weeks by Israeli troops and Israeli settlers in the West Bank, and that's ready to blow up. The Houthi rebels in Yemen are firing drones and missiles north up the Red Sea at Israel itself. Most of them are being intercepted by US and Israeli forces. And so that's another centre. And then we've got this constant issue about what's happening in the wastes of Syria, the deserts of Syria. And so we've got to keep our eye on 4 other fronts where this whole conflict might instrumentalize.
Professor Michael Clark speaking to me earlier. Well, we're just looking at some breaking news now from the Prime Minister. He's issued a statement ahead of Remembrance Weekend, saying that this act of remembrance is fundamental to who we are as a country. And I want to reassure those wishing to pay their respects and attend services and travel that they can and should do so. It's a lengthy statement, but I'm just going to pull out some of the most significant lines. The Prime Minister says, following my meeting with the Metropolitan Police Commissioner earlier this week and the government's engagement with forces around the country, the police assure us they are taking all steps to ensure remembrance services are safeguarded from any protests. Protests will only be permitted far away from remembrance events and the cenotaph in Whitehall. The cenotaph, he says, has been placed in an exclusion zone and will be guarded around the clock to protect it for those travelling to pay their respects. The Prime Minister continues, we have also taken steps to ban a number of protests planned for train stations, which were only designed to disrupt and intimidate. It ends, it's only because of those who fought for this country and for the freedom we cherish that those who wish to protest can do so. Just some of what the Prime Minister has said this evening regarding Remembrance Weekend and policing, but confirming there that they've taken steps to ban a number of protests which were planned for train stations, something the Prime Minister says was only designed to disrupt and intimidate. Well, let's get our political correspondent Rob Powell to react to all this now. Rob, good to have you with us. Certainly there's been a lot of pressure on Rishi Sunak in recent days to sack the Home Secretary, but she's hanging on for now.
Yeah, it seems to be a difference in position, though. At one point earlier in the week when Rishi Sunak...
Conflict in Ukraine grounds on. President Zelensky appeared on U.S. television on Sunday to try and keep his country...
near Sderot earlier, very close to the artillery fire of the IDF. It was loudly heard also on our microphones there. What is the latest for you?
Well, there's been a rocket strike at 4:20 local time about almost 4 hours ago, and it fell in an open field. There was no interception, and it was just
north, on the northern outskirts of Sderot. The situation is calm since now, and before that rocket alert, there were 5 days of lull with no rockets on Sderot. That doesn't mean that there are no rocket strikes on other communities facing the security border with the Gaza Strip. But nonetheless, because of this quiet, maybe, there's been a trickle of people coming back to the city since Monday. More and more people are coming. More supermarkets have reopened. We've heard that some of the residents asked the police forces that are here controlling the entrance, one of the entrances of Sderot. We've heard that the residents, before they enter home, ask the police forces to scout the area, to check the area, for fear of an infiltrator that stayed, for fear of an explosive device that didn't explode and wasn't neutralized. So there is still that fear of October 7th, because Sderot was the site of a massacre as well. There are 48 people that were killed in Sderot, including police forces, because the terrorists of Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad roamed the streets of Sderot, took it over, fought inside the police station. So that trauma is still great, but people have been so used to rocket attacks that the rhythm of the rocket attacks over the city, with a lull of 5 days and only one rocket attack this afternoon at 4:20, this is almost routine for these people for the past 22 years. So that's not what is going to prevent them from coming back. And especially that their families have been crammed into small hotel rooms in the Dead Sea or in Eilat, which was also the site of missile attacks and drones attacks. So people have decided, some of them have decided to return. People need to work as well. So there is a migration back to Sderot, to a certain extent, I would say. But the roads are empty. The roads around Sderot are only patrolled by security cars or by police cars, army cars, jeeps. And the calm is from time to time punctuated by the outgoing of artillery shells or tank shells. And at night you can't see the smoke out of Gaza, which is in this direction, but earlier we could see the smoke emanating from Gaza.
A completely abnormal normalcy and reality for the residents of the South. Excellent reporting from our Pierre Clochander in Sderot this evening. Thank you, Pierre. We are awaiting the statement of the IDF spokesperson, Daniel Hagari. We'll bring it to you live. Once he takes the podium, you can see it right in front of us. And meanwhile, as we wait for the IDF spokesman, we're hearing from more people from the region. This evening, the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman speaking out about the conflict as the concern.
We condemn the military aggression witnessed in the Gaza Strip, the targeting of civilians, and the continued violation of international humanitarian law by the Israeli Occupation Authority. We stress the need to stop this war, as well as to create conditions for the return of stability and for achieving peace.
Professor Zirabi, perhaps some change of tone from the Saudis as the international pressure grows, and obviously the pressure within many Arab states around us. How does that impact Israel's position in the Middle East, and also the prospect of that normalization deal that we're hoping for, that we're waiting for just before this war started?
Oh, I mean, it goes without saying that with Israel actually going to Gaza deeper and deeper, there would be a backlash when it comes to Arab states, even those who are thrilled of the scenario of having a Middle East without Hamas. What we see here is kind of a way by which Mohammed bin Salman is speaking to the Arab, to the Arabs and the Muslims as they are and where they are. We have to remember that Saudi Arabia is actually leading, is the guardian of the holy sacred place in Mecca and Medina. I won't say lip service, but I would say that this is kind of an assertion that I am not amazed by, I'm not surprised by. What I would say, though, is that behind the corner, and this is maybe far-fetched at this point, behind the corner there is this normalization program, because if you're gonna have a Middle East without troublemakers like Hamas and Hezbollah, it would open the way for this whole normalization process, which is basically the program for a prosperous Middle East. We have done with that, actually, we have dealt with that before the 7th of October. This was not Israel's word, it was actually coming from President Joe Biden. We know actually what are the pros and cons, definitely. But I dare say that when it comes to the Gulf states, the United Arab Emirates, even Bahrain, and when it comes to Saudi Arabia, I think that once we have Hamas being uprooted, it will be a different opera. Talks are going actually to get kind of a different code. Criticism against Israel is there, definitely there, especially when it comes to states like Egypt and Jordan, where actually the population are, protesting against that because of their, ongoing education against Israel and stuff like that. But when it comes to those states who are, and did normalization with Israel via or through the Abraham Accords, and Saudi Arabia, which I hope it's still in the offing, I think that this is kind of a platform, a geopolitical platform that would change the course of the Middle East in the future. But one at a time. What we do see here is something that is almost natural, I would say, especially when it comes to from the birthplace of Saudi Arabia. But let me remind you, they were in Jordan, the Saudi foreign minister, Emirati foreign minister, Jordanian and Egyptian, together with Foreign Secretary Blinken. We know actually that all of them, when it comes to the leaderships, would vie for kind of a Hamas-less Gaza, definitely. And this is why I say, in their back of mind, they would like to see Israel going all the way to distract Hamas, because in their own states, Muslim brothers have been outlawed or basically were haunted by all these leaderships. So they know actually who Hamas is. They know actually what the danger which is being posed by Muslim brothers. They don't have to get a lesson about that. Well, of course, this is something that it is there. I am pretty worried of the waves of anti-Semitism we do see everywhere in the globe. Not
just in the Arab states.
No. Arab states is basically the
mechanism to Daniel Agari. We conclude 2 weeks of our ground operation, ready and operating in any arena that threatens the state of Israel. Last night we operated in Lebanon, in Syria, in the West Bank, in Gaza, and also reached to the Red Sea area. Our enemies are trying to distract us from the focus on Gaza. This is where our hostages are, and this is where Hamas is. We are staying focused on the goal, staying focused on Gaza. At this stage, the forces are operating in the depth of the city of Gaza, taking over Hamas strongholds. These terrorists are hiding in shafts, getting out and going back to the tunnels. We treat them in the shafts, throw grenades, do not go into the traps, and then we blow up these shafts and take care of the underground tunnels. This is a very complicated and difficult battle. We operate from the air and from sea and mainly from the ground troops, together with the engineering that takes over the headquarters of the terrorists. Even when it's tough, we come victorious. Hundreds of thousands of Gaza residents have moved south. Hamas is doing everything in its power to prevent them from doing so. It uses them as a human shield, is willing to risk the children of Gaza to defend itself. It has no limit. It hides in hospitals and humanitarian facilities, in schools. It does all these actions which are war crime and against the international law. Will continue to do so to expose the face of the Hamas ISIS as a terror group, expose this to the world, and every terrorist will reach him and will close the account with him. During the day, there were reports in foreign media and also in our media today about a deal for hostage release. I wish to say to you three things. We are dealing all the time with various means of returning the hostages. This is complicated, not closed. It takes time. It will take time. We will not miss any opportunity to return hostages home. Not operationally, not in terms of intelligence, and not in terms of civilian matters. I ask the public to only trust the official channels of the state. We will report first to the families and only then to the public through the media. This war is far from being over. It will last a long time. We still have a lot of work to do. In the north, we are striking a wide strike of Israeli fighter jets on Hezbollah infrastructure. This in response to 3 UAVs that penetrated Israeli territory. One of them intercepted, 2 of them fell. They do not pose a threat to the Israeli civilians, and we are reacting, we'll continue to react to take down squads that attempt to harm Israel. Overnight, we struck in Syria, a terror group that launched a drone to our territory. That is the drone that struck the school in Eilat. We will continue and respond decisively against every target of any terror group. And Syria is a sovereign country. The sovereign Syrian government is responsible for any action that comes out of its territory. We investigate every event of a drone infiltration. We ensure how the alert will come, how would we read it in the radar. We investigate ourselves at the Air Force, at the home front, in order to bring better protection. We have investigated the situation also in aerial defense and from sea. All these defenses are protecting the southern part of the state of Israel. Stay vigilant, listen to the guidelines. These save lives. So far, we've given notices to families of 356 fallen IDF soldiers who have fallen in the battles for the state of Israel. May their memory be a blessing. We'll continue to follow the families. Before the Shabbat, I have heard very moving conversation between a father and his son, who are both serving in Gaza right now. The son, an armored fighters in the depth of the city of Gaza. The father, reserves, pilots, covers from the air on his son and his friends. Together, only in the state of Israel, we are all together. One front, only in the IDF can something like this happen. We're fighting together for our home. This evening as well, I wish to turn to the families of hundreds of thousands of reservists and soldiers. The men, the women, the grandfathers, the grandmothers, you are all a strength to us. Your support allows us to be strong in the battlefield and win. Questions? Okay, that was IDF spokesperson Daniel Hagari with his daily briefing. Your main takeaways from his statement about the drone threat. What do you make of it?
Well, as I said before, this is something that is goes for concern for Israel, and I'm pretty sure that Israel is starting to think in kind of a more, I would say, concerted, just to channel concerted efforts to the equation of if Hezbollah is going to use whatever actually against Israel, the price is going to be paid by Lebanese oil. This is the same thing he just said about Syria. So here's the thing. What we have to do, and this is what Israel actually is up to, is just to build up a set of equations by which to say that any proxy that is, entertaining himself with something which is, as you said before, crossing the red line, this would cause a real damage to the country actually he sits in. And basically, Bashar al-Assad is, is becoming under a threat if and when we're going to see more of the same of what actually came from Syria. I'm pretty sure that this is kind of a strategy and tactics Israel must take at this stage because Israel would rather have one at a time. We know that Hezbollah is there. We know that we can't leave actually the situation in Lebanon and defense as it was in the 6th of October. But the preferable is to just deal with Gaza, uproot Hamas, as I said before, and then actually see what the situation is. In my opinion, the very fact that Hamas is being uprooted, this by itself would send the right message to the Middle East, would send the right message to the Israeli society, because here we have also some wounds that should be healed. And basically, this would be just the first step in kind of a different modus operandi of Israel in the Middle East.
Obviously, Hamas and Hezbollah is playing a very dangerous game when it comes to the well-being of the state of Lebanon. Doesn't seem to care so far about the Israeli reaction. Professor Uzi Ravi, thank you so much for your insight this evening. And that's a wrap for now from the I-24 News Desk. More updates are coming up at the top of the hour. Thank you for watching.
Welcome back to this special edition. As said, no, it's not BC anymore, it's BO, before October. 9-month-old Kfir Bibas is now 10-month-old. Yes, a month in captivity, a month being held hostage by terrorists. Over 241 people living in this continuous nightmare. They do not know when or who is coming to get them back home. Our children, our grandparents, our sisters, our brothers. No matter how many times I'm saying that this past month, the mind, the soul cannot grasp that. They do not know that this nation's heart will not be beating properly until they're all back home. And we want to welcome now here in our studios award-winning film director, Mr. Ari Fulman. Mr. Fulman, thank you so very much for joining us. Well, before we begin, we want to take a look at one of dozens of such videos you have directed, sir, interviewing families of the hostages. Bring them home now. Let's take a look.
אנחנו ההורים של ענבר איימן, שנחטפה לעזה.
אני ידעתי שהיא הולכת למסיבה, כמובן שלא ידעתי שהיא בדרום, את ההקשר אני עשיתי אחרי שראינו בטלוויזיה, כמו שהיינו בשעה 7:30, כן, יש אזעקות טילים, אני בורחת מהטילים, כמובן ששמענו ממנה.
הבנו שהיא נחטפה כשדווח לנו על הסרטון. מהעדויות שאנחנו מצליחים להבין, אנחנו מבינים שענבר נלקחת בחיים. תחושה שנוראית של הורים. אני ילדה מלאה באהבה, בהבנה, היא מכילה את כולם, היא ילדה מחבקת, ילדה אוהבת.
איך הגיעה לנו בכלל הזוועה הזאת? איך היא הלכה למסיבה?
אנחנו מבקשים שתחזירו את ענבר איימן, הבת שלנו, הביתה, בריאה ושלמה.
Mr. Fulman, how did this project begin?
Well, first of all, this specific clip was directed by Jasmine Kenny. We shared, each one of us directed 15 of them. Well, it was organized really fast by producers Madal Zamir. 2-3 days after the massacre, October the 7th, so around the 9th.
We were already organized in a studio, researchers, crew, everything, in order to bring the cry of the families, taking into consideration, obviously, that they were totally neglected by the government, especially in the first week. No one contacted them.
It's been long days for many of them to even know if their loved ones are hostage or missing.
Yeah, and many of them didn't know. Unfortunately, while we were shooting, we were getting identifications of some of the missing people and their beloved ones. They realized that they were identified as dead. So that was also during the process of the first few days. A lot of confusion, chaos, total chaos, especially coming from the rave party, Rain. But most of all, I felt that they were absolutely deserted, neglected, lonely, aside from friends and families. But in general, they had no clue what was going on. This was very, very tough and strong.
So it sounds, and correct me if I'm mistaken, Mr. Coleman, that perhaps the trigger objective was to film those videos so the world can see, but to an extent, the more pressing objective was to make those families feel heard.
Yes, to echo the cry of the families worldwide and also here, to the government here, and to put it first in the agenda of what is going on so they will not be neglected and they will be part, or even if they're not part of what is going on, they should be released first. This was the idea after 5 days. We had no clue what was going to happen. Obviously, everybody understood that there's going to be a ground invasion. And with the families, it was for them crucial to make a statement that first we bring back the kids, everybody, and then we go on with the fight. It didn't work out so far, as they even don't have names coming from the UN. And I think today we are like 1 month. And I think, from my point of view, I think the tone should be different, should be changed.
Here domestically, not necessarily.
For me, I think it's especially domestically because I think the tone was really trying. It was a begging tone. It was, please bring me my son back home, or my mother.
Yeah.
And I think it should be demanding now.
Yeah. Not
things like me.
Yesterday. How do you try to communicate or to convey to foreign audience the scope, the scale, the depth of horror, of cruelty, of essentially the shattering of humanity, of trust in humanity, that's for certain?
Wow.
הירי הזה ילווה אותנו כל הדרך ללב עזה. גם ילך ויתגבר ככל שנתקרב למרכז העיר עצמה. אנחנו מצטרפים לנמר של לוחמי סיירת גבעתי, מהכוחות הראשונים שנכנסו קרקעית לרצועה. נשאר ממנו. אבל בעזה, כמו בעזה, גם בית ספר הוא לא רק בית ספר.
אנחנו כאן במה שנראה כמו איזה מעבדה בבית ספר, לימודי ביולוגיה, כימיה, והנה גוף האדם. אבל כאן הכוונה הייתה להרוג בני אדם, כי זה מה שקורה מטר מהקיר של בית הספר, מטר ממנו מפעל תחמושת, מחסן תחמושת, שם הארון של פצמ"רים, פצצות מרגמה, בחדר ליד יש מחרטה לייצור רקטות, ובשיעור החופשי תמיד אפשר להתאמן עם קלאצ'ים מפלסטיק. ביום רגיל 5 דקות נסיעה מכאן. האמת יש לי איזו שריטה קטנה, אולי חשבתי לטפל שם, אבל נעזוב את זה עכשיו. יש איום צליפה לעבר האזור הזה, אז נתקדם פנימה. זה היה קרוב? כאן.
סגן אלוף זיו, מפקד סיירת גבעתי, בן 34, נשוי לטל, אב ל3 ילדים. הוא והלוחמים שלו הוקפצו ב7 באוקטובר להילחם בנחל עוז, לטהר את הקיבוץ ממחבלים. מאז חודש שלם הם בלחימה. לא ממש נחו, לא ראו בית. עכשיו הם בלב העיר עזה. קרבות פנים אל פנים מול מחבלי חמאס.
מה שאנחנו חושבים עדיין זה קרב הדואר. מכוון שיטות ברורות, דברים שאומרים להם לעשות.
כלומר, עדיין יש איזו מפלגה ששולחת אותם.
אני לא יודע, לא בטוח.
אתה אומר מנוהלים.
כן, אבל המנוהלים זה משהו שיכול להיות שלימדו אותם עקרונות. פועלים לעקרונות שלימדו אותם. זה מנוהל.
כמה הרוגים יש להם?
מעל 250 הרוגים בצעות שאנחנו הגענו אליהם. מעריך
זה שלכם רק.
רק שלנו, אמא שלנו זה חטיבת גבעת. בתוך זה הסיירת וזה. אני לא מתחשבן עם חבר שלי מגעתי שלה. תאמין לי שירגיש בנוח להמשיך בסיירת ולשמור עליי ואני אשמור עליו. אנחנו הורדנו חברים שמנסים לחפש על הטנקים שלו, והוא יש פה 2 מ"פים מהשריון, שאני רק אומר להם תודה על מה שהם עשו תחת אש. אני לא מכיר אותו. אני פגוש אותו בשיתוף אחר, מסתכל בעיניים. פוגש איזה מ"פ שריון שלך, כמובן לא מסתדר בגלל שהוא נראה, ואתה אומר שמה זה הרעיות, זה רק אחד. באירוע, תוך כדי חילוץ, עשרות מחבלים שיורים, שלחו אלינו החמאס שדוחף אותו מאחורה, 150 אזרחים, נשים, ילדים, בתי חולים שלהם, דברים, כדי לנסות לגרום לנו לראות אותם. שלחו את האזרחים קדימה, תוך כדי לחימה וקרב,
מה אתה יכול לומר על הרשימה שלהם, על השימוש שיש להם?
הם קראו קצת אמצעים, הם התמקדו. אני לא ראיתי לוחמים שמצליחים לעמוד מול הלוחמים שלהם. הם מעורבים, אין להם בעיה. הרוח שלהם מתחילה להשתבר, אנחנו רואים את זה. הם הולכים אחורה. הם כבר לא פועלים בשיטות שיש להם, שמענו להם את התשתיות, הם עושים פתרונות. זה לא רמה יהודית. לא אנשים יצירתיים. אנחנו כל יום יושבים פה כמה פעמים, למרות השעות הקשות, למרות העייפות. איך משתפרים, איך מצליחים יותר. אני מוזן מהאנשים שלי למטה, שם צריך לדחוף להם בכוח. אין לי סיכוי. אני מכיר את השיח שהיה אצלי מבצעים בחירות. זה לא מצב. דברים ברורים שלא, יש ביטחון ואמון שלם ומלא בין האנשים. צריך עוד אורך רוח.
נציב יש חיילים צעירים בסדיר וגם מילואימניקים. כולם מבינים בדיוק למה נשלחו לך.
אתה לא מוביל ביניהם, היה קצת יותר קרס פחות שיער וחלק מהמחשבים. אתה לא מוביל ביניהם לא ברוח, לא בנחישות, נחושים. תשמע, יש לי פה לחיים של 60 שעות לא ישנים, שואלים אותך את ההסברה. אנשים אותם לרגע על התחת בטעות, תראים להרגיש את להציג.
5 לוחמים מבדה סיירת גבעתי בלחימה בעזה. וביחידה קטנה שבה כולם מכירים זה את זה, המכה כואבת אפילו יותר.
איך מתמודדים עם זה? איך ממשיכים קדימה? מה אומרים לחיילים?
לא פשוט. צריך להגיד, יש עצם מצליח, השתדלנו ליצור קשר עם המשפחות השכולות. אנחנו נלווה אותם כל החיים. אני בטוח שגם מתחברים. עכשיו יש לנו משימה, ואנחנו צריכים להיות מפוקסים בה מאוד.
אפילו לא הלכת ללוויות כבר. מה אתה יכול להגיד? מי הלוחמים? מקודם אמרת, עם ישראל.
יש לי חיילים מעוטף עזה, שנלחמו על הבית שלהם. יש לי חיילים מהמרכז, חיילים מהצפון. חיילים כל העדות, חיילים דרוזים. יש לי פה חיילים מיהודה ושומרון. אתה יכול להסתכל רק להסתובב פה, אתה בא לך נראה שזה בחור מקרות. אתה יודע שיש תל אביב צפוני, שאני לא בטוח שהוא סגור על הברכות. ביום שישי שעושים קידוש לכולם ביחד. באמת כל ערב רב של ישראלים, ישראל היפה.
עד כמה המוטיבציה גבוהה?
השמיים.
תודה רבה. ושאלו יהיו הסריטות שלך, הפציעות.
זה סתם בשביל הדוקטור שלא מה לעשות.
זה בשביל התקשורת, למרות שאתה עובד.
אלה לפזר מלך, בשלך פתוח לא להיות חשופים.
מהר מהר.
מה אנחנו רואים כאן? זה הכיתת לימוד? הפשלרים?
כל השהידים שלהם. וכאן יש מה?
אבל בני מוקשים ומטענים, קרימגורים וכל מיני דברים כאלה ואחרים.
הכל כאן בפנים. ושוב, נעשה את זה ברור, כן? פה הקלימנגורים, המטענים, זו הכיתת לימוד, ושם שאר בית הספר. ככה זה נראה מקרוב. כיתת לימוד שבה באמת עושים, לא רק מלמדים. הנה פצמ"ר אחד, פצצת מרגמה, וזה רקטה שבטווח שלה יכולה להגיע לאשקלון, אפילו אשדוד. זה מה שמלמדים את הילדים מגיל 0, להרוג, לרצוח, לשנוא. הירי נמשך כאן כל הזמן, גם מקלעים, גם תותחנים, כמו עכשיו, ומבקשים איתנו לצאת מכאן לאזור יותר מוגן.
יאללה, נדלק, אחריך? אחריך? שער ולמחים, ולמחים, ולמחים.
פה זה השקר. היו שניצלים בבוקר, התפנקו החבר'ה. מה אתה רוצה להיות תהיה גדול?
האמת, אני רוצה להיות פוליטיקאי.
פוליטיקאי. ראית לאן הביאו אותנו הפוליטיקאים שלך? בגלל זה צריך חדש. לא אכפת לי מהדעות שלך, אני בעדך, מצביע. אז מה צריך לעשות? בבקשה.
עכשיו נבוא לפרק את החמאס, אני כבר 20 שנה אומר לפרק את החמאס.
מה זה 20 שנה? וכמה אתה?
23.
בעין שלנו. אם יש דבר טוב שיוצא מהסיטואציה כאן, זה לראות את אני כואב לפני המלחמה, לראות פעם דברים קשים ולכל אחד מכאן, באמת כואב. אני ואשתי ישבנו יום מול החדשות, אמרנו איך דבר כזה קורה לעם שלנו. מה שקורה עכשיו זה פשוט לא יאומן. כשעם ישראל חזק ומאוחד, אין אף אחד לא עומד בדרכו. ופה מרגישים את זה, אנחנו כמו אנשים עם כיפה, ימין, שמאל, מרכז, הכל, פריפריה, הכל, זה בכלל לא מעניין.
קפה, בית קפה עזה. קפה שלנו, אני ממליץ. כל המרחב הזה שהטנקים חושפים היו משרדים של החמאס, כולל משהו כמו 10 פירים למנהרות שהיו ממש כאן, ממש מושטח לגמרי. והירי נמצא כל הזמן במטח של המרכבות יורה לעבר מה שהוא מזהה כאויב, כל הזמן ירי מכל הסוגים, כולל הדבר הזה שקרה ממש כרגע. איפה היית ב7 באוקטובר?
הייתי בין החלוץ. שתפנו לפרימה שם, תיארנו במרחב בינינו שם מחבלים, ועכשיו אנחנו כאן. אני מבחינתי, זה לבוא לצד המחבלים, ולבוא ולהראות להם שאי אפשר להתעסק איתנו, ובכל מקום שנגיע אליו, אנחנו נרמוס, בכל מקום שנהיה פה, אנחנו נרמוס את האדמה הזאת, ולא יהיה מישהו שייכנס ויבחן, ובכלל יעז לעשות עוד דבר שדומה למה שקרה לנו עכשיו.
מה אתה יכול לומר לתושבים בנגב המערבי, בקיבוצים, בעיירות שליד, שחטפו מכה קשה?
אני מבחינתי, בא לי לבוא ולגור ולשוב את היישובים האלה כדי שהם מגיעו שאנחנו איתם. וזה משימה לאומית פשוט, לבוא ולהחזיר את המקום הזה לחיים.
תן לי איזה אמירה אישית לאשתך, משהו.
אמא שקשה לי פשוט. היא גם מה שמחזיק אותי והיא גם מה ש...
איך קוראים לך?
יצא לי מעשה, והתלבטתי מה יוצא איתה, בסוף מחקר. היא השאירה את הזבת נישואים של הנשיא בכיס, היא שמה לי את הכל במסגרת. והבטחתי לה שאני אחזיר לה את הספר המתחברים על היד.
נראה שהוא אוהב אותך, ספר. חרדי? חרדי. תוציא את הפירות שנראה ככה, תשמיד. וואו, יפה לך. רגע לפני שאנחנו חוזרים לנמר בדרך החוצה מעזה, אנחנו ליד הכיתה מוצאים ספר לימוד. בכל זאת, אנחנו בבית ספר. ערבית ולא משהו. הרבה חרבות. וצילומים, הנה. החמוד הזה, אני מכיר אותו. גלעד שליט. זה החומר הלימודים בבית הספר. מחבלים, רצח, חטיפות. כל הגיבורים פה זה אנשים שרצחו יהודים, כולם. שרצחו משפחות. זה הגדול מכולם, במרכאות. יימח שמם. יאללה. אני לוקח שלל. מפלסטיק. בנמר, בדרך חזרה לישראל, אבל החיילים הגיבורים האלו נשארים כאן, מאחורינו. כבר חודש הם רחוק מהבית, כמו פעם, בנתק מוחלט מהמשפחה, מהאישה, מהחברה. אז הנה כמה דשים שריגשו אותנו, מתוך העיר עזה.
רוצה למסור לדש לאשתי ליאור עובדתי, ולילדים נעמי, יפתח ואביתר, ולהגיד לכם שאני אוהב אתכם, אני מתגעגע. לאשתי יקרה והילדים שלי המתוקים, ההורים שלי, דבר אחד יש לי להגיד, תודה רבה שאתם גיבורים מקדימה, כי הרבה יותר קשה לדאוג שאתה לא יודע מה קורה. אנחנו קוראים לכם תודה ותמשיכו להיות חזקים. רק הרבה יותר חדיך והרבה יותר קרבי. איך אתם פה? כן? עובדים עבודה? כל הכבוד. מה אתה אומר על עופר? יופי, כבר מפקדה, אתה מבין?
פגשנו חבורה מופלאה, לוחמים מכל הארץ, מכל הסוגים, מכל השכבות, עם כל הדעות. עם ישראל במלוא תפארתו. והשאלה שחזרה על עצמה כל הזמן הייתה מה קורה בארץ. האם העם תומך במה שאנחנו עושים? האם העם מאוחד? אמרתי להם שכן, שהם הגיבורים שלנו, שעם לוחמים כאלו, עם אנשים כאלו, אין ספק, אנחנו ננצח. בטח עם המילים האלו שנאמרו לנו רגע לפני שחזרנו לארץ.
החלום שלי הוא שלהחזיר את כל החטופים, ואם אני איתם, שאני או הלוחמים של כל מקום. עבור זה שהם חטוף, הם לא בחיים, אוכל, ישראל, עושים את העבודה שלנו. לא משנה מה יקרה, בכל מחיר, למה של הרופאים גם שאני אמות, הם להחזיר אותם, לא משנה מה. אז מינינו חייבים לחזור. וזו הסיבה שכולם פה, וגם אלוהים פה, וכולם באים למלחמה הזו, וזו המלחמה הכי צודקת שיש.
הלוחמים של סיירת גבעתי בעומק רצועת עזה הם באמת מנותקים, אין להם מושג מה קורה בארץ. אגב, לקחתי לי שלל קטן, יש לי מתנה, כן? תודה חמאס. אז שכל העולם ידע מה מלמדים שם את הילדים בעזה, ומולם תכף נהיה עם הילדים של בארי שמדברים כמו שעוד לא שמעתם, גם עם ההצלחה המדהימה של תילחץ. עוד מעט.
בימים אלו, אלפי עסקים ישראלים, עכשיו, יותר מתמיד, כולנו בעסק הזה יחד. עשו שופינג אייל וקנו מקומי. שופינג אייל של גוגל, קונים מקומי, שומרים על הכלכלה הישראלית.
היי!
היי! היי!
היי! היי! הייסנס! מיליוני אנשים ברחבי העולם כבר נהנים מטלוויזיות הייסנס המתקדמות. הייסנס
טלוויזיות מספר 2 בעולם.
בתור בן שמטפל באמא שלו כבר שנים, חשוב לי להגיד לכם משהו. לטפל בבני משפחה שזקוקים לנו זה אף פעם לא פשוט. ועכשיו, זה עוד הרבה יותר מורכב. איך מסבירים את המצב? איך מרגיעים? ובעיקר איך דואגים להם? כשאנחנו כל כך דואגים לעצמנו. אתם לא לבד. טבע תומכת בבני משפחה מטפלים והקימה למענכם את קהילת דואגים למטפלים בפייסבוק. הצטרפו ותוכלו להתייעץ, לשאול, לקבל מידע, יותר מכל. תמיכה מעשרות אלפי אנשים שעוברים בדיוק את אותם הדברים. טבע, שותפים לבריאות המשפחה.
היום, עם ישראל כולו במילואים. מילואים בצבא, מילואים במגוון התנדבויות, מילואים בבית. אנחנו בתמי 4 מצדיעים לכם ומזכירים שבתוך כל העשייה כדאי לעצור רגע, לשתות כוס מים ולהמשיך בשיא הכוח. לקוחותינו, מפוני העוטף ויישובי הצפון, אנחנו מחבקים אתכם וכאן בשבילכם. עצרנו את החיוב בדמי השירות החודשיים ופתחנו בשבילכם קו שירות יהודי, שנדע ימים טובים ושקטים. תמי 4.
דווקא עכשיו, זה הזמן להמשיך קדימה, להראות לכולם שאנחנו כאן לתמיד. גם עכשיו ממשיכים לבנות את ישראל, הבית שכולנו אוהבים. אסיה סיירוס, רק יחד ננצח.
העסקים הישראלים צריכים שנפרגן להם ונחזק אותם.
אני רוצה להמליץ על שיר לפיצה, פיצריה ברמת גן, עם הפיצה הכי טעימה שיש. ובהזדמנות זו להגיד לכם תודה על כל המדשים ששלחתם לחיילים שלנו מתחילת המלחמה.
גם אתם רוצים לפרגן לעסק שאתם מכירים? היכנסו לאפליקציית מאקו, שילחו לנו סרטון פרגון משלכם ואולי נשדר אותו לכל המדינה. מחזקים את העסקים, מחזקים את ישראל.
אנחנו כאן בשביל להמשיך לתמוך בחוסן הלאומי גם ביום שאחרי. אנחנו כאן בשביל להישאר, בשבילכם, בשביל ישראל, אוניברסיטת אריאל. תושבי הדרום והצפון, אם התפניתם מבתיכם מכוח החלטת הממשלה, יש לכם כתובת. משרד התיירות מפעיל מערך המספק לכם פתרון אירוח במימון מלא. למעדיפים פתרונות שהייה שאינם בהסדר המדינה, אנו מציעים מענק של 200 שקלים למבוגר ו100 שקלים לילד עד גיל 18 לכל יום, ממועד הפינוי הרשמי ועד החזרה לשגרה. לדוגמה, משפחה של 4 נפשות תהיה זכאית לסכום של 18,000 שקלים עבור 30 ימים. לפרטים נוספים ולהגשת בקשה, תיכנסו לאתר הביטוח הלאומי. משרד התיירות, הכתובת שלכם, בדרך לניצחון.
מאז תחילת המלחמה, כולנו שואלים, איך אפשר לעשות יותר? בשבילנו בלאומית, לעשות יותר זה להקים מוקד שירות לשעת חירום לכל מי שצריך עזרה בעקבות המצב. זה לתת שירות במרפאות לאומית בכל הארץ בזמינות מלאה, גם מקרוב וגם מרחוק, לא משנה היכן אתם בארץ. לעשות יותר זה להאריך מראש את כל ההתחייבויות עד סוף השנה בלי שתצטרכו אפילו לבקש. אנחנו בלאומית נמשיך לעשות יותר למענכם כדי להקל עליכם כמה שאפשר. למידע נוסף ייכנסו לאתר או חייגו, כוכבית 507. לאומית.
You turn around, it's what was in there. No reason to breathe. Maybe put the one you used to like now. Looking at the right, and a bit more trade.
Damn it.
Things can only get better.
טבעי, תמיד איתכם. חודש ראשון להתנסות חינם.
עם ישראל, הביטוח הלאומי הוא מגן הזכויות שלכם, ואנחנו כאן בשבילכם גם כדי להגן על הנפש. אם אתם חשים חרדה או מצוקה נפשית שמקשה עליכם בתפקוד היומיומי, הביטוח הלאומי מממן לכם טיפולים אישיים, זוגיים או משפחתיים, עם מטפלים מומחים ובלי בירוקרטיה. כל מה שצריך לעשות הוא לפנות אל מרכזי החוסן והמרפאות המטפלות ולקבל את הסיוע שאתם זקוקים לו. הביטוח הלאומי מחבק אתכם ועומד לצדכם גם ברגעים האלה.
אפליקציית יוקיד מתגייסת להרים את המורל לילדי ישראל. הופעות, סרטים, סדרות, שירים, וכוכבי הילדים הגדולים. אלפי תכנים אהובים שמחכים לכם בחינם, בכל מקום ובכל מסך. הורידו עכשיו את אפליקציית יוקיד.
עם פרוץ המלחמה, בסורוקה התמודדו עם אירוע שכמותו לא ידע אף בית חולים בתולדות המדינה. תעסוקה מקבוצת כללית, איתכם בכל מצב.
בוקר טוב, ענת. בעלות ובעלי עסקים. לפני חודש, כשהכל התחיל, לא חיכיתם. לא כשקראו לכם למילואים, לא כשפינו אתכם, ולא כשהכל נעצר. וזה בלי לדעת מתי כל זה ייגמר ומתי תקבלו את המענקים. אז עד שתהיה לכם קצת ודאות, אנחנו פה כדי לתת לכם מרווח נשימה. אם יש לכם עסק, בדרום, בצפון, או אם גויסתם למילואים, הפועלים נותן לכם עכשיו הלוואה עד 250,000 שקלים, בלי ריבית ובלי עמלות ל3 חודשים, וכשיגיעו המענקים תחזירו. מחזקים את העסקים, מחזקים את ישראל.
בואו נודה על האמת. הדבר האחרון שיש לכם כוח אליו עכשיו זה לשמוע אותי מדבר על ביטוח רכב. האמת, גם לי זה מוזר. אבל לפעמים אין ברירה, צריך לעשות ביטוח רכב. בדיוק בגלל זה ביטוח ישיר עושים לכם את זה הכי פשוט.
ביטוח ישיר רוצים להקל עליכם, ודוחים את תשלומי ביטוח הרכב בחודשיים. כן, מצטרפים עכשיו ומתחילים לשלם בעוד חודשיים. ביטוח ישיר, יותר ביטוח, בפחות כסף.
אולפן שישי חזרנו, האלופים במילואים, ראיתם את הכתבה הזאת על הלחימה בתוך עזה, אני פעם ראשונה רואים ממש את הקרבות שם, בתוך העיר, לא רחוק משיפה, התובנות שלכם.
שמע, אני על סיירת גבעתי חולה עוד מהקרב בנחל עוז, ראיתי אותם שם כבר נלחמים, ותראה, הם נלחמים חודש, תראה איזה מוטיבציה, וזה פשוט, גם המג"ד דיבר לעניין, יש על מי לסמוך.
ישראל.
אני, מה שמשך את עיני בצד את עיני בכתבה, דני, שקודם כל כתבה מדהימה, אתה גם הפכת לסבל חשוב במערכה הזאת, זאת האמת. זה הנחישות לנושא הזה של להגיע לחטופים. עכשיו, אני חייב לספר סיפור קטן, קצר. הייתי עכשיו השבוע בביקור במפקדה הדרומית, וראיתי שם דבר מדהים. הזרם הזה של התושבים שיורד דרומה, החיילים ביוזמה שלהם, הם תפסו תלולית די קרוב לאנשים האלה עם מגפון, והתחילו לצעוק לעבר היורדים למטה בעברית. כל מי שיודע, שומע ומבין עברית, שישכב על הרצפה. ולאחר מכן קראו להם בעברית, כל מי ששומע אותנו, חיילי צה"ל, תברחו אלינו. והיה שם איזו אישה שגררה ילדה, והם בתחושתם, זה היה איזשהו כנראה ילדה חטופה לתחושתם, והם הסתערו עליהם כדי לתפוס אותה. אף אחד לא הנחה אותה. את היוזמה שלהם והנחישות הזאת שהיא נמצאת למטה, זה הדבר הכי, הייתי אומר, משמעותי בכל דרגי הפיקוד עד להנהגה למעלה, כדי להבין כמה נושא החטופים הוא חשוב יותר.
אמנון, קודם כל אני אגיד גם לצופים בבית, כי הרבה, אני מקבל כל מיני הודעות מאנשים, לא שמעתי מהבן שלי, לא כי הם מבודדים, אין להם אמצעי תקשורת, הם באמת לא יודעים מה קורה בארץ, ושמעת את מה שהם אומרים. החיילים אומרים את האמת, שמדינת ישראל קודם כל מחויבת לאותם 239 ישראלים שלא שמרה עליהם מספיק טוב ונמצאים אצל החמאס.
נכון, דני, תראה, החטופים זו סוגיית הסוגיות. אתה יודע, עזה כאן נשארת, החמאס, כל מי שגרזן, אנס, שרף, שחט, השם ידוע, הם יחוסלו. אבל פעם כשישראל התפתחה בעצמה, הייתה אומרת, הפנקס פתוח והיד רושמת. את הרוצחים נחסל. אבל אם לא נחזיר את החטופים, זה יעדד לדורות. זו תהיה חרפת הדורות ממש. אתה יודע, הייתי כמה פעמים ברחבת המוזיאון. יש שם שברי משפחות, משפחות החטופים, שברי משפחות, וזה ממש שובר את הלב. ומדי פעם עובר מישהו וצועק, שמאלנים, הכל בגללכם.
זה בלתי
טבח קפלן. עכשיו אני אגיד לך כך, יש אומרים שצריך להגביר את הלחץ כדי להביא אותם, יש אומרים שצריכים להפסיק את הלחץ. אני לא מקבל את הביטוי לא נפספס הזדמנות או נחמיץ הזדמנות, צריך לעשות הכל, אבל הכל כדי להביא אותם. ואתה יודע, לגבי ההרס והרעל, אתה יודע, זה מחבר אותי, השבוע התראיין יריב לוין. יש לו חוצפה להתראיין בערוץ טלוויזיה, והוא אומר שבג"ץ מפריע לצה"ל. בג"ץ מפריע לצה"ל, אבל רק מזכיר לך, בג"ץ התיר הוראות פתיחה באש על פי שיקול דעת המפקדים, והתיר ירי ארטילרי וסיכולים ממוקדים, והתיר גם שימוש בפגזי פלשט. זה ממש כבר על הגבול, והחוצפן הזה אומר שבג"ץ מפריע.
הבג"ץ הזה שהם רוצים לפרק הוא זה שיציל את אורם מהאג גם כן.
בדיוק. עכשיו, זהו, כל המחאה של הטייסים והאחים לנשק הייתה כדי לשמור עליהם מפני המלתעות של המשפט הבינלאומי, גם של מדינות בעלות סמכות אוניברסלית וגם של בית הדין בהאג. ומי שרצה להפקיר אותם זה יריב לוין.
ירון, הערה שלך.
כן, תראה דני, הבאנו אתמול ציטוטים משתי שיחות עם קצינים בכירים בדרג השטח בעזה, שאמרו לנו שהתמונות האלה, אולי נבקש לראות אותם, של הציר ההומניטרי שבו עברו בימים האחרונים.
של האלפים שזורמים דרומה.
אגב, יש הערכות שבין 100 ל-130, אולי אפילו יותר, עזתים עברו שם רק בימים האחרונים. אז לפי אותנו קצינים, יש הערכות שגם עברו שם מחבלים ופעילי טרור. היום אנחנו יכולים לספר שגורמים ישראלים בכירים רשמיים מאשרים לנו את המידע הזה, ואומרים שזה קרה גם קרה, אבל במקביל גם מסבירים שבניהול הסיכונים, התעדוף המרכזי שגובר הוא הריקון של הגזרה הצפונית.
בסוף להתחיל למיין אותם, לסנן אותם, זה עוד סכנה אחרת.
שיהיה אפשר להמשיך ולהתמקד באתגרים המשמעותיים שיש שם מעל ומתחת לפני הקרקע. אגב, לא שוללים, אין אינדיקציה כזאת מודיעינית, אבל לא שוללים את העובדה, את המחשבה, כפי שישראל אומר, שאולי גם מנסים להעביר שם חטופים בציר הזה, ושים לב, אחרי הדיווח הזה, אומר לי גורם ישראלי, ממחר, אולי מחרתיים, יתחילו שם בדיקות.
היום כבר הקימו שם עמדות שכמון, כן,
זה יתחיל כבר מחר באופן של
ואנה. רצית לומר משהו?
כן, תראה, צריך לדבר על לוח הזמנים, מי ששומע, אתה שמעת את החיילים, את המפקדים, גם את הקצינים הבכירים, גם את ההצהרות הרשמיות של המערכת המדינית, אומרים, הלחימה היא ללא הגבלת זמן, אין בעיה. וגורם מדיני בכיר אומר לנו הערב שאנחנו נכנסים לצומת קריטי. קודם כל הם ימים מאוד מאתגרים, כי התמרון הקרקעי נכנס ממש עמוק עמוק לתוך לב עזה. אתה היית שם, אתה מבין מה המשמעות של הלחימה בשטח בנוי, הקרבות העוזים בתוך בית חולים, זה משמעותי גם לחברה הישראלית, זה משמעותי גם לעולם. דבר שני, אנחנו במערכה רב-זירתית, צריך להיות ברור, ישראל מבינים, כל עוד התמרון בעזה נמשך, הצפון נמשך, המגמה, התקווה להשאיר את זה.
יש תשכחי את החות'ים?
כן, כן, יש חות'ים גם, כן.
גם חות'ים.
ומול זה יש לחץ בינלאומי גובר. קודם כל, שמענו את הנשיא ביידן שאומר שזה לוקח יותר זמן, ומזכיר המדינה האמריקני בלינקן שאמר היום שיש פגיעה רבה מדי באזרחים, נשיא צרפת שקרא להפסקת אש, וזה עוד לפני שהעולם נחשף לתמונות שאתה הבאת כאן. זאת אומרת שרואים את ממדי ההרס שהתקשורת הבינלאומית עוד לא נמצאת שם כדי לחשוף אותם. ולכן אני שומעת כבר...
ובאמת אין לה לחזור שם. הרס מוחלט, והגענו ממש לתוך מרכז העיר עזה. אין בית אחד שאפשר לחזור לגור.
כן, אני חושבת שזה גם יהיה נרטיב שאנחנו נשמע אחר כך ביום שאחרי מהפלסטינים הנכבה 2, עושים את זה רגע בצד.
תשכחו מה הם עשו פה לפני 34.
לא, אנחנו לא שומעים, אנחנו מדברים.
לא, זה נגד זה. נספר על המצב.
אבל לכן אני חושבת שאני שומעת כבר קולות, לא בפומבי, שאומרים צריך להתכונן למצב שאין לנו זמן בלתי מוגבל. אי אפשר לעשות כמה שרוצים וצריך לדבר על תמונות ניצחון. ועזר אותך תמונה אחת. תסתכל על התמונה הזו, אנחנו זוכרים אותה, את קריסטינגר, יושב לו שם בחזות של הלשכה ש...
עם כל העונות של מועדון וויליס, לראות ויודיה.
And this is the fact. And once we moved from that point to the ground maneuvers, we found the Air Force in two main efforts. The first effort was to prepare the condition and the area and bring the brigades and the ground maneuvers started 2 weeks ago. And once it started 2 weeks ago, then the main job by the Air Force, first of all, escorting, very close escorting, less than we saw before. We're talking about 150 meters, striking by 500 kilo missiles, and the infantry and the tanks moving on. It's amazing. It's really amazing if you try to compare it with our last campaigns and operations.
So I guess stay with us because we really want to go to Israel's south now. Our is standing by for us in the city of Sderot. Here, we're hearing reports in Israeli media about the possible advancement in the prospect of a hostage deal with Hamas. And we're also seeing, just in front of our eyes, from Gaza flares topping the air as we speak. The skies of Gaza being lit up with these flares by the Israeli Air Force as the ground operation there continues in full force here. Yes, the reports are not emanating from the Israeli media. They're emanating from Al Arabiya channel, who is Saudi linked, talking about the release, or the would-be release, I would say, of 100 children and women. There are 32 children in the hands of the Palestinian groups and possibly civilians, and that would be in exchange for women and minor Palestinians who are in Israeli jail. I remind you that only 3 days ago, a border police woman was killed by a young Palestinian of 16 years old. But these are only reports that have been kind of negated by the IDF spokesman, Rear Admiral Daniel Agadi. He said, we're hearing those reports as well, but these are very complex operations, release of people. First of all, because not all of the hostages are in Hamas's hands, some are in Palestinian Islamic Jihad's hands, and also some are in clans' hands, because civilians also took part of the massacres in October 7. They breached the border, they came into the kibbutzim, and they also, it seems, kidnapped hostages. So it's a complex operation, because I don't think that Hamas, for instance, knows exactly how many hostages are in Gaza and where exactly. Yes, and we've seen so many other reports.
This is a complex negotiation. Yes, but the problem is, what? In exchange of what? In exchange of days of fight, of a ceasefire that would allow the terrorist groups to move the hostages from place to place. In light of what Rear Admiral Agadi said, that the IDF is also operating on the intelligence level and on the operational level in order to find a way to free the hostages. So this is not an easy task for the negotiators. And right now, we don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. What we see are only reports. And this is what basically the Israeli spokesman said earlier.
Yes, the light that we are seeing is the lights on the screens right now as the skies of Gaza are really lit up with so many flares. Here you've been hearing the artillery shells from where you're standing in Sderot. How does the fighting look like on your side?
We just hear the artillery, we hear what you see, we hear the flares going down, raining down on Gaza City. If these are red flares, these are weapons. Not phosphorus, but weapons that are used by the IDF in order to neutralize terrorist targets. We've seen that last week, also at night, and this is the sound that we hear at this moment. What you see on the screen is what we hear, basically. But the operation is going on with full intensity. 9 hospitals and clinics have been evacuated already in the northern Gaza Strip. Shifa is the headquarters of Hamas operational and command center in Gaza City. It's surrounded. Most of the Palestinians who took refuge in the vicinity of Shifa Hospital, hoping to find a shelter in a place which will not be bombed. And indeed, Shifa has not really been bombed. All those people have used the humanitarian corridor opened unilaterally by the IDF, and only a few tens
are remaining around Shifa Hospital compound.
Yes,
There are other hospitals that are encircled. Rantisi Hospital, Nasser Hospital, in which there are very sick people, and the plan is supposedly to evacuate them in coordination with the IDF very soon. Obviously, these hospitals and the Indonesia hospital. All these hospitals are targets because, yes,
obviously all these hospitals are also hubs for the Hamas terror group, with so many tunnels underground being used by these terrorists and using those innocent civilians, those patients in the hospitals, as their human shields. And this is what Israel has been talking about for such a long time.
Not just that, there are also Hamas operatives in those hospitals with weapons. We've seen footage of that. That's why these hospitals are encircled. The army is putting pressure on these hospitals in order to extract from those places the non-involved Palestinians, the patients, and also the medical personnel. That's why all these hospitals are encircled. None of these hospitals are the site of fighting per se. The fighting is going around the hospitals. But the hospitals are encircled. There is a siege on them, putting maximum pressure on these hospitals in order to evacuate them, their patients, and the medical personnel into the southern Gaza Strip, which has been severed from the northern part of it, in order to find a shelter in designated areas. Either UNRWA, the UN agency that has been dealing with refugees since 1949. We're talking about 4 generations of people who have a status of refugees, and also to the designated area of Al-Muasi in the southwestern part of the Gaza Strip, designated by the IDF.
Peter Koshender reporting from the Israel-Gaza border in the city of Sderot. Thank you for that update. Still with me in the studio, Zvika Khaimovich. What do you make of these dramatic images we're seeing on the screen now, those flares?
I think that we can see first signs of changes in Gaza, and I will count maybe 3 major changes. First of all, as I know, and the IDF spoke about it formally, more than 100,000 Palestinians moved from north to south. It's a good sign. It's a sign that the Hamas changed his role. Once we are talking about the Palestinians, the people, the civilians in Gaza. Secondly, we can see less rockets than 2 weeks before, mainly to the center of Israel. You can see kind of a daily rocket salvo, 4 to 6 rockets from Gaza to the area of Tel Aviv metropolis. It's less than it was a week or 2 weeks before. And last but not least, we see that first of all, the IDF controlled all the refugee camps around Gaza and start to push the Hamas to the center of Gaza. We are talking a lot throughout the last few days about Shifa hospital. I think that Shifa it's a symbol. It's very important, but it's a symbol that will affect the morale of the Hamas, but more than that, to show the world what does it mean, Shifa Hospital and the underground Shifa.
Speaking about hospitals, just a short while ago, we spoke to Ori Galante, an Israeli doctor from Soroka, who's been treating patients from the October 7th massacre, while his uncle was killed and his aunt was abducted to Gaza. Let's take a listen.
The New Orleans community was a very special community. They were all farmers, people of the land, people who loved people. Many of them were volunteers. They volunteered to drive families and children from Gaza to get treatment in Israeli hospitals. And as you said, me myself, I treated over the years, I think I treated dozens talk to their families, and I send them back home. And, as a matter of fact, the week before the October 7th, there were approximately 60 families from Gaza in Israeli hospitals getting treatment for diseases they can't treat in Gaza. And now, you can't help yourself from asking and wondering whether those patients of mine, their families, their friends, were part of this murdering mob that slaughtered, murdered, raped, burned, kidnapped my family and friends. Did they call their parents, proudly showing their bloody hands with Jewish blood to get a blessing for their parents? And we heard those talks. I work in a hospital in Soroka Medical Center, which is filled with wonderful people. The people that give their lives to treat others. On October 7th, we worked side by side, shoulder by shoulder, medical teams with Muslims, Christians, Jewish, and we treated the wounded together. The wounded were also Jewish, Muslims, Christian, all over. They killed everybody. And 30 kilometers from where I'm sitting now, just now, there's a building, and the sign over the building says hospital, Shifa Hospital. In this place harbors the monsters murdering of my family and friends. They are hiding over there. Probably my aunt, Adina, with the other 240 kidnappees, among them 40 children and babies. She's probably over there also, underneath this hospital, so-called hospital, in the tunnels of Hamas.
Very powerful words there from Dr. Ori Galante, speaking to us a short while ago. Still with me in studio. Tzvika Chaimovic, your last comments.
Yeah, we started before this last article. We spoke about the changes in Gaza, and in fact that Hamas is still fighting. It means that it will take time, and this is not the time to put any stopper or any timer on the table for the IDF. I think it's very important to continue the momentum that we seen the last few days, because stopping now the ground maneuvers will take us back, and all the discussions around Israel in Qatar by the Mossad chief and the CIA chief and others, I think it's very important, but we need to put a clear line between that discussion and the operation in Gaza. And we need to maximize the time, the situation, and the condition, and continue our pressure to the Hamas. Only these two conditions, the discussions with all the prayers, but at the same time continue to push the Hamas, will create the situation and the conditions that the Hamas will agree to release a part, a few, maybe. It's not, we're talking about life of people. It's not a business between two businessmen about the last price, and we need to be very, very careful about the way that we are managing that situation. And I think that, and it's not question only about definitions. We are not talking about ceasefire. I think that even the Americans, they are using the term of pause. Let's take a pause, a break, not a ceasefire. I think it's much more than a semantic words how to use, because we are not going to stop that strike, that ground move. Because if we would stop now, we will not achieve our very ambitious but very clear goal to defeat the Hamas. And the question about the 240 our people in Gaza, it's a combination, it's a mixed question of strategic
suggestion is maybe to split it for a few packages of maybe kids and maybe older people, maybe others. I think this is the way, because knowing the Hamas, it will take time. And they will gain the time because they want to delay the ground maneuvers. They want to bring our people morality to come against the government and against the leaders. So this is the way that the Hamas tries to maneuver.
Very difficult decisions for the Israeli government to make. Zviga Khaimovich, thank you for your insight. That's a wrap for now from the I-34 News.
Now, from the devastation to resurrection, the security chief of Kibbutz Givin, who is giving I-24 News a rare look into the life, or what's left of it, in the kibbutz right after October 7th. And yes, his optimistic vision on the future of the area as a whole. As we've said, from the ashes, flowers will rise again. That's it.
Kibbutz Givin, near the Gaza Strip, adjacent to the southern city of Sderot, was not severely hit by the brutal terror attack by Hamas on October 7. But things could have been very different. When Gil Schwartzman, a member of the kibbutz, tells I-24 News about the dramatic moments.
At around 7 a.m., I heard gunshots around the gate. I got a call from the local security coordinator. He said, "I've been shot. I'm injured." I called the standby squad, and we came to help him. Another car was shot at, and the guy there was shot in his head, but he survived. Another car was also hit by gunshots and grenades. We counted 45 bullet holes in the car. The local security chief got hit in his leg, and I had to take his place. We also had a lot of luck, perhaps even divine providence. I want to show you something special. This gate took a lot of bullets. When we opened the gate, look at the shape of the bullet exit hole.
Kibbutz Givin was established in 1947, a few months before Israel declared its independence. Over the years, it's known many challenges due to its sensitive location.
In the beginning, people lived here in tents. In July 1947, this structure was built to protect the residents from attacks by Egyptians. Members of the kibbutz lived in tents and small cabins.
Schwartzman is one of 16 people of his standby squad, the only ones who remain in the kibbutz out of its 617 members. When we walk around, we see empty houses. But thanks to Schwartzman and the few people who are left here, the kibbutz is not neglected, and even the local dairy is functioning.
I was in Germany on family vacation when the situation started. After a few days I came back. It's a bit strange to be here. I'm alone here, except for a few people and soldiers. But what can I do?
Outside the kibbutz, we visit Salta, which Schwartzman directs. This startup hub is home to dozens of high-tech companies which develop revolutionary inventions, from 3D printers to FSMP platforms.
We've been active for 6 years. All the companies have told me that they are not leaving this hub. Other companies have been interested in participating in this project. It's the first high-tech hub in the Negev, and one of the biggest and most successful ones. High-tech always has a future. I have no doubt that in 2 years, when you come back to visit, we'll have expanded to 50 companies.
Despite the horrific tragedy, Schwartzman is still optimistic and says he believes that most of the residents will return to their home eventually, that Givin and the high-tech scene will flourish, perhaps a ray of hope in this dark time in the south.
October 7th is obviously forever engraved in our history and our hearts, but there are those who are also engraving it on their skin. From Auschwitz to now these are not numbers on our hands that the Nazis used to dehumanize us. The other way around, reminders of our strength, our pain, and yet our strength. And we want to welcome now Alina Adams and Alina Rudovsky. Both are joining us now. Alina is a tattoo artist, and Alina is the sister of Alexei Rudovsky, a police officer who got killed on the 7th of October fighting near Kibbutz Naim. Alina, first of all, we're so very sorry for your loss. Why did you decide to honor the memory of Alexei with us at you? And maybe share with us a bit about your hero of a brother?
Well, first of all, I knew immediately that I'm going to do something to remember him, something that always will be with me. So it wasn't any question. And actually, what happened is the day they came there with the book and they had a cafe with many of the terrorists. And there was one brother that he was shot. Probably he died on the spot, but we don't know exactly. This is Bart's brother. And one day we came home and we talked with his friends that came also to our home. And they showed me the picture that you saw before. It's actually his last picture. It's been shot like, I don't know, maybe an hour before he died. And when I saw it, I knew immediately this is what I'm gonna do. This is how I want to remember him. And because he was a hero, he was a fighter, and I just knew that this is what I want on me. And this is what I want to see every time. And yeah.
Lena, every tattoo is a great responsibility, of course, but here, as a tattoo artist, much more so. What do you focus on when making such a tattoo?
You mean about tattoo of Alina or about everything?
Of Alina, and generally, again, these tattoos have extra meaning at this point in time and forever.
A lot of people call me with so much different and sad story, and it's most sketch people choose. Or feel, I don't know, powerful, or how to understand this pain, or everything. And most people come with hard pain, and I try to complete this pain to body, on body.
Yes, and as I mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, obviously for us as Jews, there is an extra meaning of tattooing grief, Alina, but again, this time it's the power that is being underlined here. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm nervous because this is a month they passed away, and I'm still shocked we just did this tattoo. And everyone that I showed him the tattoo, even the people who been around him, they were like in shock when they saw it. They didn't believe we're gonna do this. And it's powerful. I don't know how to explain it because I have him on myself.
Yes.
It's not just simple tattoo. It's not something that just, a beautiful one.
Yeah, in you and on you forever. That's for certain. Alina, thank you both very much for speaking with us. Thank you. And now, Jews always took humor very, very seriously. We cry when we laugh when we cry. This is part of the survival mechanism, but how do you put in a smile when all you want to do is cry? And more so, how do you make others? So to try and answer that, we're so glad to welcome here in studio Sheila Friedlander, but best known as Shorty the Great. The Great, a medical clown from the Dream Doctors. Shorty, cheers. Thank you so very much for joining us. Well, before I ask you how you do what you do, maybe let's start with what do you do exactly? It's some sort of a medicine for the soul.
Clowning is exactly that. Clowning is that moment that comes into a room and it just changes, shifts the energy, and you can feel something else. It's really hard to put in words. You sort of have to be there, see it, feel it.
Yeah.
And when you're there, you know, wow, what just happened? Like, what? A second ago I was crying, a second ago I needed to do it. I'm going to an operation and it went in smooth. And that energy shifting, what we like to call, you come into the room and you just bring something else, you elevate the moment, that's what happens. That's the medical clowning.
So it's not necessarily about making people laugh, but about making them stronger to an extent, but especially when there's also this profound issue of trust being shattered. Your presence.
Look, now, it's not that the last thing that I want is make people laugh.
Yeah.
But the first thing that I want is to be there for people, to touch, to put a hand, to put a song, to make the feelings come back to life, not stay in this, we're all in this very hard moment that all you want to do is cry, all you want to do is just sink down. And when you come with the clown, it's not that he ignores the sadness,
right,
but he can come and he can say, there's still something to it. When I see a sick child, so in the hospital, I will always see also something that he has that is still alive, still good. A toy, the other leg that works, his fingers that are now in a different position. There's always something else. And even now, there's always something else. It's not even looking about the future that you don't know. It's not even thinking about the past. It's now. Now we can find something else. In every situation.
Something that's alive.
Something that's alive, exactly. Something that still wants to feel. If it's music is a beautiful therapy. You're going and you just want to dance. Or a puppet show. Or bubbles. You just want something magical, magic tricks. You're looking to hold on to something that is like, that's what it's going to do to you.
Yes.
Big breath.
This 1 second will lead to another and then another. And yet what you've seen, what we've all seen in the past month is,
heartbreaking.
Can you share with us perhaps a moment that you felt that you're making an impact?
Look, it can be in the smallest thing of walking into a hotel and you know that all the people there have been evacuated. You don't know where they're going, what happened to them. You don't even need to ask because you can see it on their face. And then that one hand that a mother comes and says, I haven't seen my child laugh like this for the last 3 weeks. And you feel like it's been worth it.
Yeah.
It was worth it. Or even we started working in the hospital with soldiers that have been wounded.
Yeah.
And standing there with a soldier that he's even like, listen, I wasn't even in battle. It was on the way to. It was you can laugh about everything because people like humor. People like laughing at the situation. They want to be in that place that you can just like, let's laugh about it together, you know?
We'll mention Jewish humor at the beginning of our conversation, and albeit that it's not the medical clown humor per se, there's something about this this combination of grief, sorrow, and laughter that is to an extent embedded in Jewishness.
For sure. For sure. It's as if we are looking for these moments to help us overcome what's happening in our every year, generation, situation of our nation. And we're always looking at that brighter side. Or at there's a joke everywhere. There's a little giggle. You want to be with kids and give them a different future. Me as a mother, I want to give a different future. And looking at the situation in this different perspective is just changes everything for a better thing. This is the next generation. Our kids don't need to be stuck with these pictures. What they need to remember is like nice moments that they're walking through, and if it's colorful things around them, and if it's a song or all kinds of dancing. So many clowns are now in Eilat, and what they really enjoy doing is dancing with them. No, you don't dance when it's sad, but you can. And if you can, you're already helping yourself heal. You're already helping yourself overcome everything.
Shira, so many of us felt guilty this past month.
Yeah, for sure. Not even smiling, also continuing and just like sitting with my kids. You feel guilty for every little thing that is still a sense of life.
Yeah.
And then when you think about it, and you're knowing we have to, we want to overcome this. We're going to continue living. And this is our instrument, life. We choose life. We choose to smile in this situation, not because I'm laughing at it or I want to put it down, because I want to choose life.
Because this is the answer, the only answer to death.
Yeah, exactly.
Sheila Pineda, Shorty the Great. The great indeed. The great. Thank you very much for making us smile and for making so many others smile. Thank you. Now, speaking to that point exactly, what do you do when you lose trust in humanity? You find refuge in those who still believe in humans, right? And yes, I mean our best friends. In the moment of truth, they didn't leave us behind, and we did not leave them. More Ellen with more about the heroic operations to rescue dogs from the war zone.
Israeli residents living next to the Gaza border have been forced to evacuate their homes in a hurry. Many were forced to leave their pets behind.
We're talking about cases where people themselves had to run with their babies on their hands. Stories of them, jumping out of windows with their babies, and the stories that I hear are of people trying to call their dogs, right? Or cats is even harder to come with them, but the dogs are so afraid that they hide or they run away. And they just had to run. They were running for their lives. So a lot of the dogs, which are, right, they're another, and cats, they're another family member that was just left behind. So that's why it was really important for us to just go and get, extract them as fast as possible.
Thousands of Israelis from all over the country have come together to reunite families with their pets. A war room in Beit Kama in the south of Israel was established, and from there, the teams leave for their assignments. These volunteers are headed to another operation to extract dogs from the dangerous areas. The areas that are still closed military zones under the control of the IDF.
Don't try to run to a shelter. Just lie on the ground and put your hands on your head. Don't kneel. When we look after animals, if the dog runs off, let us know so we can come with you. Don't get too far away from us. For those who are carrying weapons, we are here to safeguard you. Please leave your gun in the holster, except when we are under fire.
It doesn't faze these volunteers.
When the war broke out, I was basically just at home and I didn't really do anything to help. And I felt a little bad with myself that I can do something better than just sitting at home watching the news. It can be a bit scary sometimes, but it's for the dogs.
For the volunteers, the satisfaction of reuniting pets with owners is worth the risk. This dog owner came all the way from Eilat, where he and his family have been staying since the war broke out. After his dog was found in one of the villages, he tells the volunteers that his second dog is still inside. Not a minute goes by and another group of volunteers come back with a missing dog.
The unions are unbelievable. They're unbelievable. I think it's also a sliver of hope that if this dog came back, then maybe the kidnapped, right, that the kidnapped people would come back as well. That it shows the possibility of getting back someone that you thought you lost track of.
I want to turn now to Dr. Tamara Fredman, CEO of Israeli Planet Sanctuary Foundation. Thank you so very much, Dr. Fredman, for joining us. Well, one picture I saw in the earlier days of the war hit hard and keep on thinking about it. It was a sweet dog sitting all terrified and worn out at the back of her family's semi-burnt car in one of the kibbutzes down south, waiting for her owner for 3 days.
Yeah, it's really heartbreaking. And what we started to do when this war broke out was to try and help other animals that were left behind.
Yeah.
Mainly animals that were left behind in little petting zoos, little children's zoos. Birds, rabbits, turkeys. Lots of these kibbutz farms were evacuated, people had left, and all the animals were left behind. So in war times, in peace times, our sanctuary only takes care and rescues monkeys, but we felt we had to do something more about this. And we started taking all these animals that were left behind in these petting zoos. We did it together with the Ministry of Environment and the Nature Reserves Authority. These are two lemurs that were left behind in the petting zoo of Be'eri at such terrible time in this terrible massacre. All the birds came out from the little petting zoo in Kerem Shalom, where all the people had to leave. And we felt that this is the small thing that we can do to take care and love of these animals until people can go back home and the animals can go back home with them. So we quickly built these enclosures for all these animals, and we're still taking more. Tomorrow we're going down again to the south to collect more ducks and chickens who were left behind, and quickly build more enclosures and find foster families to help us take care of them until they can all return back home.
Dr. Fredman, can you feel, can you sense, can you identify trauma with these sorts of animals?
Well, I think mainly the two lemurs that we took out from Be'eri, this little kibbutz that suffered so much from the terrible massacre, it did seem to be traumatized. It took a few days for them to calm down, start eating. They were hugging each other for most of the first few days. And after a few days, they started to feel a bit better. And now they are living next to other lemurs that we have here. So they're starting to feel a bit more relaxed. Yeah. So we can they had such a terrible time in those days, and they were left behind. Some didn't have enough food to eat. So they started to get the right food and to start to feel a bit better. Yeah.
Yeah, to rehabilitate it slowly but surely. Dr. Fredman, I think that the fact that we insist on saving non-human creatures is underlining our humanity in those dark times when we need to regain trust in humanity altogether.
Exactly. I mean, the way people treat animals is it's the way people treat other people as well. And we really feel that we're kind of giving a bit of peace of mind to the people that to leave their homes, knowing that someone's taking care of them.